You were with Hot Rod Garage for 9 years, 10 years?
No, 6.
Oh, I thought it was longer than that.
6.
Does that shop have AC?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, it's beautiful. But it also has no windows. It's like being in a cave. You don't know what time of day it is. You don't like know what day it is. It's nuts.
You walk out, it's dark and raining. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, you're like, oh, cool. And it's fake. You know, it's like it's a fake shop. Like it's very much like the other side of the building is a bunch of people working on computers, and if you spray paint too much, they complain.
Oh, really?
You make a bunch of noise. They
So it's
complain.
office and-
Yeah, it's office and. Like, yeah, one time we sprayed a bunch of spray paint, and like 15 people thought they got poisoned and left for the day. Left for the day. I'm like, don't you? Cool. It's just spray paint.
Welcome to In the Aisles, presented by Reilly Auto Parts. I am your unreliable host, Derek Bieri. Today I have a very, very special guest. Stunt driver, professional drift racer. You've seen him on Hot Rod Garage for years, all over Motor Trend. Stay tuned, presented by Hagerty, Mr. Tony Angelo. How's it going?
Great, dude. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, coming all the way from Philly out here. Actually, we're racing later today.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
This is going to be a lot of fun. So after this segment here, we're going to be doing the 2.4 hours of La Mullets. And I have a strong feeling if we don't win, we're going to be very close.
We'll see.
Very, very close.
I can say I guarantee something exciting is going to happen.
Yeah.
For sure.
So are you still drifting?
Not professionally.
Okay, but I mean, you're still drifting.
Well, yeah, we're putting together cars now. I sort of really pulled away from it. And then when I got on Hot Rod Garage, it became such like a full-time thing that I was like, I want to get back in a drift car. I want a fun car. So I bought a couple now, and we're putting together like a reliable-ish package. But yeah, drifting is the funnest. And everyone goes like, oh, I do that. And like, they don't. You know what I mean? Like even like other like, let's say, auto journalists are like, we drift the, and I'm like, you don't. It's not.
That's not drifting.
It's not it. Like, look, I get that you have some car control and you can like get a brand new Corvette a little bit sideways and navigate it through a turn. Drifting is like, there's a turn over here. I'm going 1,000 miles an hour. I throw the car as hard as I can sideways. I hope to God I make the turn and not flip this thing. And then the only thing I can do is be like fully committed and railed on it and like rip it around that turn. That's drifting.
I'm trusting him with my race car later.
Yes,
This is great.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm very confident because it's supposed to rain all day.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm very confident. I'm not going to do so good. He's just going to be giggling out there, hanging it sideways, just killing.
The kidney bean today, too. The track layout is, my brain, I didn't really look at it. My brain was like, it's a 3/8 oval, right? So like, I'm trying to like get into the mindset of like what's going to look like in the car. And then I'm like, the kidney bean is totally
It's
different.
way different because your apex is going to be off.
Yeah.
On both ends,
Yeah.
coming in and out of the kidney bean.
Absolutely.
So the only thing that's still normal is the front straight.
Exactly. And braking at the end of the front straight. Yep.
Everything else is different. Have you been to the Freedom Factory?
I have not.
Oh, this is going to be fun. It's a nice facility. He's done a good job putting this thing together. But yeah, it's going to be a muddy mess today. I got to ask you right away, what is your favorite aisle at O'Reilly Auto Parts?
Probably the help section.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
The self-help section?
Like the help stuff. That's like everything you need. Like, a door hinge for a Firebird, or like a cigarette lighter, or like the brake caliper sliding bolt things.
Yeah.
Like that's, you're like, I need that. Give me exactly that one thing.
That is like the wall that every guy should have in the garage somehow.
Yeah.
Like if you could afford it, just like transplant that wall. Yeah, for sure.
That's the best one.
So you're obviously a car guru and enthusiast, but let's talk about, when did Tony get started in the car community? When was the aha moment for you where you're like, this is what I'm going to do? This is what
I can tell you when for sure. That was drifting stuff. Because as a kid, my dad and I tinkered with cars, nothing super high performance. He put himself through college as a mechanic. He always wanted cars, but he was from like didn't grow up with a lot of money in Philly. So it was just like keep cars running. And then I got into muscle cars as a teenager because my mom wanted to get him one. And then I got my Demon and stuff first thing. But in high school, I was like staying up all night, like working on the suspension, the brakes of my Demon, going in with no sleep, like wearing a mechanic's outfit. And I worked at a tire shop when I was 14 and 15. But the most, then I went to school and I didn't graduate. And I was like, all I want to do is car stuff. Like, I don't want to wait. I went to engineering school. I didn't want to wait. And I had driven by this place that says Extreme Motorsports. And I was like, what is this? And I went in there. It was a Porsche 944 shop that had just opened. And I was like, please let me work here. And they were like, no. We don't need anybody. We don't need a kid, whatever. I was like, every day I went back. I'm like, I'll do it for free. I don't care. Let me sweep the floors. And they did.
Wow.
They're like, okay, cool.
So you really started from the ground.
The ground up, sweeping floors. I'd worked at a tire shop when I was 14 and 15. This was like 18 or 19. They did that. They put me. We got real friendly. They were like, they taught. I learned a ton. They let me autocross a 944 turbo. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I need a turbo car. Turbos are the greatest things that ever happened. I bought an RX-7 turbo. No one in America cared about those. So my buddy Chris Forsberg, who you may have heard of, his dad was working in like Singapore, and he started getting us Japanese videos and magazines. And we were like, oh, these cars are awesome. Drifting is the coolest thing ever. And so we spent like 2 years like doing like making an American drift car before anyone was doing it really. We went from being like, oh, these are D1 videos. This is the Japanese guys, the drivers. We'll never meet them. This is like could be another planet. Didn't make any sense. But we're like, we idolize these dudes. We're building cars that drive like them. We'll just figure it out ourselves. We went, circle track shops and made like 4 links for Corollas and like whatever we could do from American parts because we couldn't get anything at that point. And then we had started the East Coast events at Raceway Park, Englishtown, New Jersey. And the Japanese league came and did like a tryout for Americans in California. And me and Forsberg were kind of like the standouts and certainly the most like dedicated. We went there and we saw all the support. Like we went and raced with like the best kids in America. First of all, everyone was pretty rudimentary. Everyone was pretty low level. But we were like, we're as good as these dudes. We were like, this is it. Like we're as good as these dudes. And they all have like sponsor stickers and they're driving other people's cars and they have fancy helmets.
And you made yours.
We had nothing. We had like nothing. Nothing. We had like rusty old exhaust we'd piece together, like whatever. And we were like, that was it. We packed our stuff and moved out. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do.
Nice.
I'm as good as these dudes. We're coming. And at that point also, like it was the most random thing, but Wired magazine followed us on that thing.
Oh, wow.
So the first thing I was ever in was like an enormous nationwide Wired, and that was like a huge drifting thing. So those 2 things I was like, this is what I want to do. I just want to do cars.
So you really hustled to get into the sport, and you got in on the front end.
Oh, yeah.
Way on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, like, we rode the first wave, and it was, I tell people all the time, like, you can't imagine what it was like to be like, oh, drifting is like reckless and cool and everything we like. Let's do it on the PA back roads. Yeah. And then a year later, we're like, let's try to start events. Started them. And like a year later, we're competing in the American Pro Series.
It's wild.
It was insane.
What a tide.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, it's weird because like, I am a motorhead through and through, but I'm more of like grassroots, dirt track, oval racing, 8th mile drag racing, stuff like that. And it wasn't really, honestly, until like 5-6 years ago, I really started paying attention to drifting. I knew it existed, and I've seen the magazines and shows, but I was like, they're just sliding around. And then I come to an event and I watch my first drift event and I'm like, these guys are nuts.
Nuts, yeah.
They're an inch off of each other's doors, sliding at 50 miles an hour, controlled.
In like low 9-second cars that they're throwing sideways.
But they're clearly not even looking at these 2 turns. They're looking at the third one.
Yeah.
Like preparing how, and I was mind blown, just completely mind blown. Because like you say, we would take our old hopped up muscle cars and go, spend figure eights and cookies or donuts, whatever you call them, at Walmart or wherever.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, sliding around, drifting. It's not drifting. You're just throwing a car around. There's a big difference between drifting and burnouts, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, we started like in the snow in PA. Like we would be like, it's snowing. Plows haven't come yet. Like, let's get go. Like before they come, we'd be like, we wanted as much snow on the ground as we could get before the plows came. And like get out there and just go bananas. So everyone starts like that, but then to kind of develop it into like drifting. And those dudes, like, I competed in Formula D for like 9 years. Those dudes are all killers. They're all absolute maniacs. Like the level of the driving is insane.
Yeah, it blows my mind to see it. It's crazy. And then I watched you toss around a Corvette. It wasn't too long ago. You built when was that?
Yeah, the black one.
Yeah,
the Black C5.
You obviously, it's like muscle memory for you. You get in this thing, and it was like you never stopped like competing at that profession. I mean, that's what it looked like to me. Anyway.
Yeah, I felt a little rusty, but yeah, it does take me. I can still do it.
Yeah, it looked a lot of fun. It's something that I really want to learn, but I just don't think I have the.
I bet you could do it.
The brain power.
I bet you could do it. I guarantee you could do it. I'll show you how to do it. Absolutely, right. Guarantee it.
There's some drift cars really close to our.
We can do it right now. I saw some next door, but yeah. We'll do it.
All right.
I'll show you, and I'm like, you could get the basics down quickly because I've seen you're actually from what I've seen, you're a very impressive driver, especially if you haven't ever been like
that.
a pro. So
No.
I've been impressed with the stuff I've seen already. You'd pick it up.
I'm like the Joe and the pros versus Joes.
No,
kind
you're a
of
good
thing.
driver.
No, I appreciate that. He's going to carry the team race tonight.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. So what's your earliest memory? We talked about kind of how you got started. You were talking like 17, 18 was in there. You're like, okay, we're going to drift. We're going to build these cars. But what's your earliest memory? Your dad was a mechanic. So there had to have been a car on blocks or jack stands or something.
I guess, like I said, he was a mechanic and put himself through engineering school. And like we were, like he just worked a job, like a white collar job when we were kids. But there were times you kind of like, I could see it. Like we would do work on the family. You know, we cut this, replacing the exhaust on my mom's Dodge Aries station wagon.
Yeah.
We'd have it off and fire it up and like make a bunch of noise with it. I remember that.
That's a rule.
It's the rules. That's the rules. Exhaust off. You got to fire it up.
Yeah.
I remember that, and I remember his family had like a farm in like central Jersey, and one of his cousins. Like it seemed like they were super into cars as kids, and they all kind of got real jobs. My uncle, who was then went on to be in the FBI and stuff, but he had a barn garage, and we'd kick around in there, and there'd be like old Chevelles and stuff like kind of rusted in the ground. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I liked it immediately.
It's like the barn on Days of Thunder where
Yeah.
they just build race cars. in
Exactly. It was
Yeah.
like that. Well, it was a little concrete shop out back on the farm, and I was like, oh, they used to. Like, you could just tell, like,
Yes,
here.
things have gone down.
Yeah, things have gone down. There's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh wow, like they've done some stuff here, and I don't know what it was. It hit me like, and I was in trouble a lot as a kid. I was like I was grounded all the time.
You have FBI in the family, and you were in trouble.
Oh, I
a
was
lot?
in trouble constantly. I was a bad kid. So they were like, go to your room, and all I would do is go to my room. And they bought me a bunch of books about cars, and I would just read. Like I would just look, even like 5, 6, like those like exotic the big ones. Remember like the
Oh yeah,
like big one. And I would just look at like all these, and I was like, I love racing and I love cars. And then but the weird thing was they were like they wouldn't get me anything with an engine.
oh really?
They did this. This is all their fault. I probably could have got a real job. I probably could have got I could have gone and done something important.
So you went against the grain. and
Yeah,
that's why
I was
you're-
like, they were like, you can't have anything with an engine. I like got caught on the back of my buddy's dirt bike. They were furious. I was like 8. Like nothing with an engine. No. Right. But then they were like, well, you're 16. You're 15. In PA, I could get my license. I bought my Demon when I was 15. They're like, well, that's a car. That's different. I'm like, sure. So then I was just out like raising hell for years. But all I wanted to do was like race as a kid, and they never let me. And then I wound up like, by the time I was 19, 20, I was into drifting.
Nice.
Yeah.
You still have the Demon,
I do.
right? You just brought it out of storage not long ago.
Yeah.
Big plans for that thing?
I don't really. It's weird. I love that car, and I'll keep it around. And it's a '71 340 Demon that
It's
I
already
bought.
so nice.
It's super nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know what to do with it exactly because it's like a matching numbers car. I'm thinking like if I really want to drive it around a bunch, and I don't look at any cars, even that one, as like I don't want to use it, like because I
Right.
don't care. It's my car. It's not. I'll probably never sell it. So it's not even really worth anything to anyone else. Like it's never going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just want to use it more. So how can I make it more fun to use? So I'll put some stuff. I might put like a stroke or small block in, or so. I like to have a
Yeah.
little more power. But it's a really fun car. And yeah, I still have it. I bought it when I was 15. I had saved the money from working in tire shops a couple years, and that's back. I bought it when I was maybe I think I just turned 15.
What a first buy.
Yeah, it was
good. I mean, you don't really hear that a lot.
I credit to my dad for that because he's such a stickler that I was like, I want to buy a muscle car, and he took me to look at a ton of cars, and we looked at some of the raddest stuff. We looked at like a 68 396 Chevelle. This was back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like.
Do you think he was vicariously like living
I
through
think
you?
he was like, yeah, we're gonna get something good. And he didn't like the sound of that motor or whatever. And we looked at like a Cutlass convertible that was like, some of them were pretty rough. Essentially, I'd go like, okay, I have this much in my bank. And then he'd go like, okay, we can look at this class of cars. And back in the day, I paid $3,500 for my Demon, $3,350. And it was great, but it was, the mid 90s or whatever. So you could buy cars like that. And we looked at a 69 GTO 4-speed car. This was like a complete needed a restoration. And everything he's like, no. And I'm like, the Chevelle, Dad, it's incredible. He's like, you can't afford it, number one. Like, you haven't got there yet. And like, I don't like, no. And the Demon, I was like, look at this car. And he goes, yep, that's it. That's the one. So I got a crazy good deal on a really solid car. And it was only because he was like, he wouldn't let me get anything that was a disaster.
Yeah.
And then he was like, we drove up, and I'm like, I went with my friends. We were like at Sunday dinner. Italians eat at like 2 p.m. for whatever reason on Sunday, big pasta dinner. And I had been looking through the classifieds, and I saw a Demon. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even take my dad because I was like, he said no to everything. He said no to everything.
We're gonna make it happen.
I got one of my buddies who was a year older to drive me over, and I see it. I'm like, oh my God, that car is amazing. Like it's so rowdy, it's so over the top, scoops, stripes, bright, green, sounds like a jet fighter. Like
that is like it's muscle car.
Yeah, it's
like
a muscle car.
Everything wrapped together.
And I come home and I'm like, Dad, yes, you have to. And he's like, all right. Like I'm like, I found a good one. And he's like, yeah. And then we go and he's like, yeah, this is it. This is done. It's done. Let's get it.
Don't tell your mom.
Don't tell your mom. And then we brought it home. And it had probably blown through the chair, like the like crimped together muffler. It was loud as hell when we got it. He drove it home, 4-speed. We pulled in a driveway. He's like driving it into the garage, and my mom's like, I'm going to kill you. Like he's 15 years old. Yeah, she's like, if he gets hurt with that, I'm going to kill you.
Okay. Did he spin the tires or at least dumped clutch once on the way home?
No, I don't think. I think he kept it pretty chill.
Really?
I recall. Yeah.
It would be hard. Like if that's something I bought my son, I would have to just see, for safety reasons.
For safety, yeah.
To make sure that he wouldn't get hurt.
I didn't know how gnarly it was really as a kid because it was like probably a high 12-second car for a first. Again, ridiculous.
No, that's
ridiculous.
Gnarly.
Four-wheel drums, manual. Like when I got it. And so I would sneak it out. Like, they would leave and I'd go like, where are the keys? Like, so I took it out the first time and he had really babied it. And like, he cruised it home, maybe got in a little bit. And I took it out of our little development. I didn't have my license yet. Don't do this at home, whatever. And we have kind of a main road, like a 2-laner, but with some space. And I just put it in first gear. I had learned how to drive stick on like Geo Metros, pulling them on and off the alignment rack of the tire machine. I had never driven anything fast yet.
Yeah. And
I pull it out and I just rail on it. And it's like, ah, like it's like immediately the loudest thing I've ever been. It's like, ah, I'm like, oh my God. And then I remember like my hand just went in like this. I was like, just get the next gear and just do it. Like just see what else this does. I remember being like, yes. And then I hit second and just railed into it. And I was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened.
The first time you get set back in a seat, you're done.
I was like, because I was like, I'm doing it. And I'm like, just grab one more gear. And I was like, boom, hit it again. I was like, this is the greatest day of my life.
That's awesome. I wish I had my first car, but it was an old farm truck, 74 Chevy Camper Special. But I got it because it had the 454 and the Turbo 400.
There you go.
So cam, intake, headers, carb, a young kid just blowing tires. I spent more money on tires and I ended up getting the same size. I had the skinnies and the fatties.
Yeah.
But then I changed my plan to have 295s in the front and rear, which is terrible for steering.
Yep.
But I can rotate them.
You can move them back. Yeah, that makes sense. Get twice as much out of them. I like it. Yeah.
But the gas was only, 92 cents or whatever a gallon back then. So it wasn't too. Everyone's like, how did you afford gas? It's like, well, wasn't that bad.
It was $8 would get you half a tank of gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best.
Well,
I remember that. That really and I didn't get caught that day. I got caught later on. And I was like, this is the best. I was like, this car is banana. Like, I was like, oh, I wonder what it does when you floor it. Yeah. It had like a mildly ill-tuned double pump on it. So I hit it and it did like a for a second. And then it just went gone down the road. And I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. I'm having the best time.
How do you feel about, so cars like that, in my opinion, 10 to 12 second cars are still fast.
Absolutely.
But there are some that, like, obviously we're sitting next to a twin turbo LS over here. We got like a 700 millimeter single turbo over here. Now it's like, if you don't have 1,000 horsepower or an 8-second car, it's not a fast car. How do you feel about that?
I hate it, to be honest. I hate it. I think once you have 400 horsepower in a street car, you should be having a blast.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a tough pill for me to swallow because you can't drive a twin turbo car on the street.
You can't use it. I think driving a slow car fast is usually more fun than trying to drive a fast car fast, especially on the street. I agree totally. Like every time I try to put something together as a daily, I'm like 400. If it's a heavy car, 400, 450. But yeah, you're not cool unless you got like a turbo the size of a baby carriage hanging out the side of your car, and you're like, what is it? Yeah, it's weird the way things have gone, and I don't know what it is. I think a little bit of it is stock cars are so fast now.
They are.
That like 800 horsepower doesn't seem like a lot, but when I was a kid, BMW M3s had 240 horsepower, and that was like, that's a sports car. Like it's serious, and turbo Porsches had 400, and the Vets made like what, 375?
If that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people were like, that's serious. Cars are getting fast again. And I was like, that's so cool. And then like down the road, you can buy a 9-second car from Dodge.
Right.
Which is like, who needs that?
It's wild just how like a turbo LS has essentially changed the perspective of
What's fast?
Yeah, and I don't know. I've watched your struggles with the Grand Trational, I believe you call it.
Uh-huh.
So I had to go buy one.
Yeah, I saw yours.
So I got the Bland National.
I like it.
And it's like, so when I'm talking about the car, I have to stop and say, okay, kids.
This was fast.
It's still fast.
Yeah, it's
Like,
still fast. This was a really big deal.
4.5 seconds 0 to 60. I know you can go buy that, but this is the 80s.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, and like you have to like, it's almost awkward that I have to explain.
Yeah, Mustangs ran 15.3. Nothing did anything.
Yeah,
and they were fast. Like it was cool. Yeah, I totally agree. I think you can have a lot of fun in a 400 horsepower car.
Yeah.
And I don't think, it's cool. It's a very different vibe of like having a car that's just an absolute rocket ship that like you can't find the limits on or live around the limits and like really drive the cars.
Right. That's how my Chevelle is. Like I've tried to street drive it, but things can go wrong so fast.
Yeah.
When you can blow the tires off at 70, like you can't. Like you say, I would rather have the foot on the floor.
Yeah.
Rowing gears, smiling,
having a blast.
Yeah,
I agree. But it's but when I think about it, what a funny thing I always remember is that 400 horsepower in the 90s was a big deal. Right?
Oh, it was huge.
It was huge.
That was like if you ran a 10,
it was crazy.
You were
a god.
How did you do it?
Yeah, exactly. That was bananas. But I do remember dudes in Australia were already on turbo V8s. Those guys, like they put numbers up, 900 horsepower street cars. And I'd be like, that can't be right. Like, that doesn't even make any sense in my brain.
How do you keep the rods in it?
How do you keep the rods in? How do you keep the car on the wheels? Like none of it made any sense. But yeah, cars you don't need to be that crazy. My Firebird right now, my like street freak Firebird, we put a stroker Butler motor in it, but it's through iron heads that I ported probably in a mediocre fashion. And it's low compression because we're gonna put a blower on it. But it makes 340 wheel horsepower.
Just enough to get in trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, and you may not want to admit this, but I have a bunch. But what is the most ridiculous hack you've done repair-wise?
Oh, God.
That's worked?
That's worked?
You're like, I can't believe that worked. Don't do it at home, but this worked. Like JB Weld head gasket, or you got some zip tie stories, or
the worst thing I've ever seen, and I think we helped, but Formula D, we were like going through a lot of different rules changes and sort of figuring out in the moment. Like back in the day, if you crashed me out and I couldn't fix my car in 5 minutes, you win.
Really?
Yeah.
How is that?
That
if
was just
I
part
wreck
of it.
you.
Yeah, like it was just like, it seemed like they didn't realize that people could be at fault in a crash. So it was like, oh, 2 cars crashed. You have 5 minutes to fix them. We have to keep the show going.
Oh, so they didn't know how to discern kind of, because it was so new. Like
because it was new, and they didn't think like, oh, some cars would just wreck other dudes' cars.
Yeah.
Which is what happened. So we were at Sonoma one year, and my buddy Chris Forsberg, who I grew up with, who's 3-time national champ, he's an absolute murderer behind the wheel. I was driving one. He has Nissans. He had a V8Z at the time with the Nissan Z in it, the VK motor, the 56, and he was doing really well. He was like, everyone went from like, we do everything the Japanese guys do, which is like 4-cylinder turbos and rotaries and stuff. And then a couple of American dudes were like, I'm gonna put that truck motor in this 240. And like everyone went, oh, wait a minute. So Chris had a Nissan V8 in his car, and the dude had wrecked him at Sonoma. And he was on his way to, I think, a championship year. Ooh. It was important.
Yeah.
And he had to get back on track in 5 minutes. And it's a 2-piece control arm in the front, like sort of like a strut rod and a lateral arm, sort of like this. He broke the tension rod.
Okay.
And we're like, what do we do? He's like, he doesn't care. Dudes just like, drive whatever. And they use ratchet straps from both ends to hold the control arm in place.
Press it together, basically?
Press it together. Like, so the one arm is here, and if there's no strut rod, it can move wherever.
Yeah.
So they just took ratchet straps and strapped it back and front.
Wow.
And just sent him out on the track. And I was like, are we doing this? And they're like, I'm like, is there a tech official here who's gonna go like, there's no way that's safe. And they did it, and he drove pretty well. I think he lost because like he went around the track sideways. Like it was.
I was gonna say
that was one of my favorites. And then another one. These are all like in the moments. Brian Turk, another buddy of mine, broke. He used to break the throttle levers all the time on his turbo 4-cylinders, SR20. He'd break it, and he was in like top 8, and this was the year we were on the team together. And we're like, what do we do? Like, he had to run again. And he'd broken it. He broke the shaft like right out of the throttle body.
Oh, geez.
So we're like, just take it off. We're like, just get it out of there. So we just took the blade out, pulled the shaft out, and taped the hole up, whatever we could. And then we're like, we push him up to the line. And we're like, all right, start it when the run starts.
Wide out?
Yeah. And he drove it. The second he fired it up, it went like right there, put it in gear and go with the car. Immensely floored the whole time, and then try to get around a very technical, fast track.
Wow.
So we've done some things.
Did you have to move a seat back for all the brass?
It was bananas, dude. Like, they're like, are you ready? Are you ready? Kick, 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 kick. And they're like, yeah, he's ready. It's good. It's just murdering itself off the rebel.
Could you imagine being the other driver? Like,
yeah, it's
intimidation factor?
Terrifying.
Like, okay, this is full send to a whole new level. Do you have the time, the money, the resources today to be like, that's the car, I'm going to start building it?
Start building it? I would love, there's a lot, man.
I know, it's a tough question.
It's a tough one.
And it changes, right?
It changes all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to have, and I don't really have any like crazy high dollar cars. Like some, even like Finn's got some super off the wall stuff now. Like that Cadillac he's building and stuff. But I would love to have, I know they've all done it, but I'd love to have a 2nd-gen Charger.
Yeah.
It's such a cool car.
It's
like the coolest. And
They're
I've been
iconic.
in them. I love it. The shape is incredible. I had a line on one last year. It fell apart. I would do that. I would love to have, I have I always wanted a CUDA, so I have one, which is was a real big deal for me to get that.
I like that. I like the stripe you did on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I really wanted that. So it's like 3 colored chunks. I wanted it to be like a gradient all the way across, but we didn't have time to do it. So maybe later.
Kind of like the get smaller slats.
No, it does get smaller the size, but I wanted the colors to shift
I see
slowly.
what you're saying. Yeah. That'd be cool.
So the CUDA was one, and then really my all-time favorite car is probably still like a Ferrari F40.
Really?
Yeah. Because I'm like a hot rod guy, but I'm like also like a real racer at heart, and those things just are so bananas.
Oh yeah, for years everybody chased them. Like, how do they manufacture this thing?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So cool. But yeah, I love C2 Corvette. I like C1 Vets. I like a lot of stuff.
You like C2s?
Yeah, C2s are cool.
I don't fit in them.
I can't imagine you do.
I don't fit in them. I've tried. I buy them. I enjoy them. A week later, I sell it because I'm like, I'll never use it. But then I miss it because I love them so much. So I get another one.
Oh my God, the shape of that thing is incredible.
Yeah. I just bought an anniversary sitting in a barn. I'm looking forward to getting to it. I just got to find the time. It's got like 52,000 miles.
Is there anything you want you don't have? Whether you're like, I need it.
I'm so lucky that I have it. Like a 69 Camaro LM1, that's like, I got it.
Yeah.
My dad's car, my 56 Buick, I got that. And then old square body trucks. That's it for me. I don't need like Lambos.
I'm with you. That's the Ferrari for me, even as a kid, I was like, that's so cool. And then I learned about the mechanics and I'm like, oh, just like a turbocharged.
I think a Lotus.
Everything manual.
If I did something weird, it'd be like a Lotus maybe.
Yeah, I have a Lotus.
Do you?
Yeah, I have a Lotus Esprit.
Oh, I missed that.
It's a total project, but it's like the early one that's like.
I love the shape of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I bought it.
Or a Panther. Is that what it is?
A Pantera.
Pantera,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Those are cool.
They look kind of like Lotuses, don't they?
Their rear engine, it's got that shape too.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You could tell how much I know about non-American automobiles. But we were just chatting, like, the wants of cars for me, like I'll wake up and be like, I kind of want a 40 Ford or something.
Yeah.
And then next week I'm like, like a 54 Dodge 4-door, 3 on the tree would be cool. And then next week it's like, I want to find a 60s Dodge pickup.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. My Facebook must think I'm out of my marketplace, must think I'm out of my mind. And it does it pretty good. It's like trying to serve me ads. It's like, here's that Fox body you looked at the other day, and here's like a 1965 Impala, and here's like also that 88 RX-7 Turbo you were thinking about last week. And like this, I'm like, okay, cool. And then show them, like, and I go like, okay, maybe. Like, I'm like, oh, cool.
Mine's equally as bad. It doesn't run, and then there's a wood-burning stove, and then an antique chainsaw, and then a car I can't afford, and it's like, Same thing. My Facebook, I think, has given up at this point.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting like handbags.
I get a lot of that. Yeah, a lot of weird offensive stickers. I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you ever had a time-sensitive project or a project where you're like, can't get it done, or I'm burnt out, or I'm just over this, and you kind of just shelf it or walk away, or even sell it? You're just like, I give up.
I've got something similar. And I'm a real maniac about getting stuff done if I decide to do it. Like there's no
Well, you're just charged for it.
limit to like how many hours or late nights I'll put in, which is, generally worked out, I guess. But I've done but my CUDA probably is my biggest letdown project.
Really?
Yeah, because I made a bunch of we had to get it to SEMA. And I don't like this about like a project like that. Like I was like, this is my dream car. I want to make it really special. And about 60% of it I did exactly how I wanted. And then the crunch came. The time crunch came. The shop at Motor Trend flooded through the roof, and it set us back days. We had to bring in a bunch of my buddies out. Everything rusted. It was weird. They pulled the roof off, and then in LA it rained one day hard. It rusted everything. It was a disaster.
Oh wow! So you made some sacrifices.
I made some sacrifices. We started hacking up fenders and putting on bolt-on flares, and I was like, God, this is not. And so for years I haven't really looked. I went through SEMA, but I kind of just put it in a corner, and I'm kind of finally now let's do this thing right.
I have those.
Yeah.
Where it's like coulda, shoulda, didn't do it. And I'm not ready to come to grips yet.
Yeah, I'm working. It's been 5 years, and I'm like, okay, fine, we can talk. Me and you can reconcile it because it's got front fenders that are full of Bondo. That's how we bought them. We couldn't get anything. No one had anything in stock that was metal, repos or anything repops. So we wound up just I sent a production assistant down south with way too much money, and he came back and he's like, man, these are heavy, boy. I'm like, they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And they have so
32
much.
pounds of Bondo.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. You didn't even go nothing, huh?
You didn't take a magnet?
You didn't learn anything working here? That's fine. I'll take them, I guess. So there's all sorts of stuff like that.
So is that project coming soon or in the future?
Next year we'll do it.
Next year?
We got some stuff, more pressing stuff I want to do first.
Sounds like you actually plan things.
We're trying.
Which is, I should take note.
We're trying.
I kind of wake up and go, I have that part that could probably go on this.
Yeah.
And try to make the thing.
There's a bit of that, except I go oh, where are we on this? And there's that. But essentially in PA, we're we know it's going to be cold for the next 4 months or 3 months. We're not getting out much. So what big projects do we want to crack on?
Yeah. I'm used to that. Growing up in North Dakota, it's you have sun and weather you can live in for 4 months. And the rest of it is just misery and terror and trying to stay warm. So it's you plan, get all the parts and pieces, and then just dig in and go full on in projects.
Yeah, exactly.
So is that the worst weather you've worked on a car is the snow? Have you ever done extreme heat or what's the worst conditions you've worked on a car where you're not doing that again?
Ugh. Snow. I mean, we were kids, we did it in snow a lot. But I did that one roadkill with Finnegan. It was like a tornado, essentially. We were in a hurricane on that in this love truck, and we were trying to rebuild a carburetor. And it was just when it's raining so hard, it's just running down your arms.
Oh yeah.
We're outside. I'm trying to hold the hood in front of them. Sheets are hitting us around. It was a disaster. I was like, this is the grossest. I'm soaked. We're sitting in the car afterwards. There's so much water in our body. It's crazy. That was the worst. I couldn't see. You're sweating. Then you're sweating. The thing's fogging up. We're trying to get somewhere. It was I'm like, this is a disaster. That was the worst. We actually flooded. At one point, we were wading through 2 feet of water through parking lots. It was insane.
It was a mess.
Yeah, it was like a flood hurricane.
You're why are we here?
Why are we here? Maybe we just go find shelter somewhere for a while.
Yeah. What's your favorite? So I have you have to exclude your CUDA and your Demon.
Yeah.
Because I have my dream cars or my favorite cars, but I also have my favorite overall build, a car to go cruise or thrash or raise hell in. Do you have one of those, and what is it? And you don't have to own it. It's just be something you worked on or built.
I think probably the Getaway Malibu we did on HRG that I did buy and then wound up doing a giveaway with, and I'm like, should have kept that.
Was that the?
We jumped it. So we took a 4-door Malibu. We put, again, not a crazy motor. We put a 495 horsepower naturally aspirated LS in it with a 5-speed behind it. We did full QA1 suspension, but we kept it jacked up pretty high. We did a little bit of a cage under the hood, and we put like trophy truck bump stops in it. So we did like, I put a hydraulic handbrake in it. We put a 9-inch with 2 calipers on it, and nothing in the interior. Like look normal with just a shift, like a stick, a handle coming up, and a handbrake. And that car was awesome. And I think we braced the frame up a little bit underneath. Nothing crazy. And it was the best. And we did like a video of it was like the idea of like, let's build a getaway car. Perfect. Like this would be the best. You would never notice it. It was 4-door. It was like that like powder blue and like had perfect rust on it. And the car was an animal.
But you had enough power and speed.
Oh yeah.
You had a cutting brake, so you can slide it around if you could jump it.
I jumped it far. I jumped it up like essentially off a ramp, like the Hoonigan ramp. We rode the ramp from Hoonigan. They're like metal grate. And then I jumped it and I gapped it up a hill, like essentially like to a curb. It was brutal.
How was the landing?
Not too bad.
Not too bad?
It definitely hurt. It was kind of stupid, but it was worth it. But that car, like even after that, it was fine. I bought it from them and I took it to PA and I drove around. I'm like, this car is the best. It's so good. You could drive it anywhere. Like, just super fun, super reliable.
So talking about it again, would you build another?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, absolutely.
I see like a new circuit maybe.
Yeah.
Like 4-door sedan, like trophy truck style.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah. It'd be awesome.
Like must have full interior, must have all glass, must have all lights.
Yeah.
shoulder seatbelt only.
Yeah.
Limit the safety.
I think that something happens when you're like, sometimes you just put a car together and you go like, this will be pretty cool. You're not like, oh my God, this will be the greatest thing that ever happened. But like, let's get a little power. Let's get a little, if it's an iron block, nothing crazy. Put some heads on it. And we'll kind of like, because all I wanted to do was like, I like stunt driving. I wanted to do a cool video. We went to this like abandoned town and Lucky chased me around in the Crown Hick. I got a couple of cop cars and stuff. And it's sometimes when you put a car together and you're like, hey, this and this is it's mostly pretty basic stuff, nothing over the top crazy. And then it just turns out to be like the best, the funnest car to drive. And you just want to go like, I love this thing. Like, this is the best car.
Everything kind of just
it
falls
just works.
in it.
Sometimes you put them together and you're like, yeah, this thing, everything works. It's the coolest. That was it.
That's awesome.
What about you? Do you like that Chevelle more now that it's got 1 trillion horsepower before you wrecked it up? Or did you like it more basic?
I kind of liked it basic because I could use it more.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe it.
I could take it to town. I could go get parts. You could still power brake it, slide it around a little. Now it's just. That's why one of the reasons last night was the last burnout competition I'm doing with it. I'm retiring it.
Okay.
So I'm going to take that drivetrain and make something else dumb.
Yep.
And then I'm going to put the Chevelle back.
Oh,
or I can go play bingo with it.
Yeah, perfect. How bad is the body? It's not that bad, right? It's pretty bad. Are you gonna fix it-ish?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe.
Got it.
That's my CUDA project. Someday.
Someday.
You'll see it today. You'll go, no, it's done.
Yeah.
So this is always a kind of a fun question to ask because you recently started your YouTube channel. Stay tuned. You're doing very well on that. You did some projects, and you can see that now on the Hagerty YouTube, right?
We moved it over to Hagerty channel.
And so I want to ask your favorite music, but you probably have learned that you can't blare any music while you're filming because it's,
of course,
all that. So when you can listen to music, what do you listen to when you're wrenching?
Well, I think like usually if we're in the shop and we really want to like it's like a lot of early Metallica,
nice
80s metal,
like Black Album or Justice for All or whatever.
Yeah, Ride the Lightning.
Oh wow,
Kill 'Em All.
Okay, early 80s.
Early stuff. Yeah, that I like. Ramones. We also do like 70s like prog rock sometimes. All right. Like we like put on Kraftwerk and just zone out and get weird and just. We also have Colin, who's in the shop behind ours. He's a fabricator, and I've learned I think every fabricator is on some spectrum of from completely out of their minds to pretty weird.
Yeah, they come from a different planet.
Yeah. Anybody that's going to sit here and go like, okay, today I'm going to make this thing fit like this, like it's art. When I'm like,
square peg, round hole.
Boom, fine, good enough. Let's make it a car. He just has like techno, like it's like a 90s rave in the back. So I'm like, okay. So we're like, turn it down or we have to drown that out. But yeah, like classic rock, not 80s metal, that kind of stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
When you're cruising, is it different music or same music?
It
Or does
depends.
it depend on the car?
Depends on the car. Like if I'm in the Firebird, like Springsteen,
There you go.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 70s rock, Bad Company, stuff like that.
It's funny. All the people we've asked, we've got that same answer. Like, here's my favorite music, but if I drive this car,
Yeah.
then it's got to be this.
Oh, when I was
Yeah.
even a kid and I drove my Demon, I got like corduroy pants. I was like, it's the 70s. Like, it was like, it's on. I got a bunch of like Sly and the Family Stone and like golden earring tapes and stuff. I listen to Radar Love or like, Deep Purple. And
That's
just
awesome.
go, hit the road.
So we're going to move on to a segment called ASAP-olators. You guys really like this one. This is where I'm going to rapid fire you some questions, and your job is to, as quickly as possible, first thing that comes off the top of your head,
Okay.
that's your answer. Going to start out with a tough one.
Okay.
Favorite automaker right now?
Dodge.
That was fast. Challenger, probably.
Charger.
Charger.
Yeah.
Have you heard the new electric growling speaker thing?
Yeah. No comment.
No comment. What is your go-to beverage while wrenching?
We drink a ton of water, but also High Lifes.
High Lifes. All right. Ugliest vehicle ever made?
Pontiac Aztec.
Ooh, that's a good one. We get a lot of PT Cruiser, Volkswagen Bugs. The Aztec, I think, thankfully, is like finally being forgotten a little bit. Someone should big block one though.
Oh, yeah.
Just to,
Do it.
yeah. What tool do you use the most?
My bandsaw.
Bandsaw.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of more of a. Do you consider yourself more of a fabricator than mechanic?
I don't know. I'm not a fabricator. I would never call myself a fabricator because I'm not that good at it. I can fit stuff together, but like welding is not my thing. I'm like, this goes here and that makes sense. And then we'll kind of get it going. I really like a race. It's crazy. We do these build shows, but like I'm a driver, I think, more than anything. Well, I used to be anyway. I don't know.
When you build it, it's nice though because you're building it to like curtail to your driving though, in a sense, which is cool. So I consider myself more of a traditional mechanic. So like tractors and semis and any pushrod V8 or whatever, non-computer stuff. I look at people like you as your skill set when I say people and think that I would call you a fabricator.
Okay.
Because I couldn't take aluminum, pie cut it, TIG weld it, make a turbo thing that's too cold, the other one's hot or whatever. Sure, you can do that. I would have like Schedule 40 pipe, and plumber strap and stuff like that. But okay, what's your favorite decade of automobile?
Fast, right?
As quick as you're
70s.
Okay, which makes sense with the Demon and the Cuda and the
G-bodies are in 70. Yeah, you can get some G-bodies in there.
Yeah.
I like third gen A bodies a ton.
Really?
Yeah, they're cool.
They're kind of coming around.
They are.
Yeah.
There's just not that many. The problem is there's not that many of them. So
Right.
they're tough to find, and the prices are going up.
Yeah. Swivel seats, man.
Cool.
What's your favorite car movie?
Drive.
Drive. Okay.
I don't know. Two-lane blacktop is great. Vanishing Point is awesome.
They're all good.
They're all good. So many good ones.
Here's a side question of that. What do you think was the last greatest car movie? Because they're like done, it seems like.
I don't know. I mean, I would say probably Drive. That one really got me hyped. Like, I was like, this is cool. Shot incredibly well. That car is an off-the-wall car, but you get the right vibe of like, it doesn't super matter about the car. It's about the driver and what they're doing and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Baby Driver I didn't see. I heard that's supposed to be awesome. Is that what it's called?
I've never watched that one.
Is that it, the stunt wild one? Yeah.
I think after like the new Gone in the 60 Seconds got so hyped up, and like it's better chase scene than the original, and then I watched it and I was like,
I love old stuff, man.
Yeah.
Like, even the old Gone in 60 Seconds, like Bullet, all that stuff is so cool. I romanticize all of it, but it's so cool, man.
Here's a question that's not even on my cheat sheet here.
Oh, wait, are we still going fast?
No, we're done with that now.
Okay.
I'm not very good at this. Last question for you.
Okay.
If you could spend 1 year on a pro circuit doing any kind of motorsports in the world, what would it be?
Jeez.
Like, here's the key or theoretical key. It's probably a push start.
Yeah.
What would it be? You don't have any like monster truck childhood dreams?
I do, but for the whole year, I'm like, man, I want to do a bit of, first off, that like you couldn't, like now that I kind of have a little more freedom to do to get out of the shop, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Like I want to go do a little bit. I want to do everything. I want to race trophy trucks, and I want to drive a Trans Am car.
Nice.
And I want to do some rally stuff, and I want to do some hill climb stuff. So I really want to get now, like again, like I want to get in behind the wheel of a ton of different things. But if I had to like really go, like what would be the wildest? Probably WRC.
Really?
Yeah, I would. It's just that stuff where it just I like things are happening so when you're just like trying to keep up with the pace of how things are.
That's
trees are ripping by and some guy's screaming at you. There's turns coming and you're not worried about this turn because you're worried about the next turn.
We would hit a tree 80 feet in.
I would too, for sure.
Because he's like, hot, left, right, yellow. I'd be like, e-brake, tree. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. I'm sure I would hit a bunch of trees.
Yeah, I've watched some of Pastrana's stuff. And
He's a madman.
I can't even, and video is slower than in person.
Yeah.
You know this. So
Yeah.
like, I can't even compute trying to watch his GoPro as to what is happening. I couldn't imagine being in some of those vehicles. That's a hard no for me. 1086 pulling a hay baler that's exciting for me.
I don't believe you.
Well, that's going to do it for In the Aisles, presented by Reilly Auto Parts with Tony Angelo. We've got a race to prepare for. Dude, thanks for coming.
That was
on.
a blast.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
I'm
it was
so
a lot
excited.
of fun. Now we get to go slide.
Let's do it.